for that go live button. There we are. Welcome everyone who is joining us today. Happy Tuesday. I would love to know where you're joining us from. We had a panel last week, and I think the furthest that we had join us was from France, I believe. So would love to know where everyone is joining us from today. For those of you who do not know me, I am Avery Bradford. I'm head of programming and events for a Female Founder Collective and the 10th House. I'm extremely excited for today's event for multiple reasons. One, because we have a stacked house. We have a very impressive list of panelists today. So I know you all are going to hear a lot of tangible and actionable nuggets. So hopefully you have your notepads ready. If not, this event is being recorded. If you did RSVP, you will get a replay link by the end of this week. So be prepared for that to be in your inbox, hopefully by Friday. Female Founder Collective and Brookfield Properties Bleecker Street Collection partnered to bring you not only this event, but an in-person event that's coming up this Thursday. So this is your reminder to RSVP for the Holiday Sip and Shop presented by Brookfield Properties Bleecker Street Collection. This is a way for you to support female-founded brands in the heart of the West Village. So for our NYC founders, hopefully you can join us. That is on December 8th at 5 p.m. You will sip, you will shop, you will network, you will learn. There will be some cocktails there, obviously shopping. This is really a way to put your money where your mouth is this holiday season, and also just for you, just as a way for you to mix and mingle. That's always fun. So head to the 10thhouse.femalefoundercollective.com/events to RSVP. You'll also see all of our other upcoming events. So for access to all of our events and networking opportunities, I hope that you all are already members, but if you're not, check out our private membership community called the 10th House. And that same link, the 10thhouse.femalefoundercollective.com, will bring you right there to apply to our winter cohort. We have a very unique setup where we bring in cohorts so that it does feel like you're entering a house of people who you live with and can really share an experience with. So enough about housekeeping, because I want as much time as possible for today's event. I'm going to introduce our wonderful moderator today. So today's panel is moderated by the so talented Divya Mathur. Divya is a tenured retail executive with 18 plus years of buying and merchandising experience in the luxury sector. So this conversation is all about retail. So who better to have the conversation moderated by than Divya. She is currently the Chief Merchandising Officer at Intermix, a highly curated women's fashion retailer, and has previously held senior roles at Shopbop, Michael Kors, and Saks Fifth Avenue. Divya, I'm going to pass it over to you to get started because we have so much to dive into today.
Thank you, Avery, for that amazing introduction. I'm really excited to be here and really excited to host all these amazing women on this panel. So in today's event, we're talking with Lily Sadugi, Kylie Taryn Nakeo, and Rebecca Minkoff about their year-round retail and marketing strategies that have led them to be so wildly successful. So before we dive in and just get this conversation started, I did want to introduce our amazing panelists. So starting first with Lily. Lily is an industry leader in accessories. She has more than 20 years of experience designing collectible headbands, costume jewelry, jeweled sunglasses, handbags, and more. And Lily initially, when she moved to New York from Dallas, was designing for other brands. So Rebecca Taylor, Ippolita, Banana Republic, and then went on in 2006 to launch her first ever jewelry collection for J. Crew, and grew that business significantly over the next 5 years. And there are still pieces there that are being sold today. After that, Lily had the jewelry design director role at Tory Burch. And then in 2012, she went on to start her own line. So the line initially started as a jewelry line, but ultimately, as many of us know and love this brand, it has become the ultimate accessories destination and is known for her iconic knotted jeweled headbands. I'm a big fan. I live in them. And of course, all the amazing, colorful, playful jewelry. She has over 150 global retailers and has been worn by just incredible names, everyone from Kate Middleton to Lady Gaga and more. So thank you, Lily, for being with us today.
Thank you so much. Happy to be here.
Next, I'd love to introduce Kylie Taryn Nikeo. The story of Taryn Thomas, which is the brand, Kylie's brand, began on the streets of New York City. So Kylie actually moved to New York from Toronto to study fashion marketing and merchandising at Parsons. She then went on to draw inspiration from this amazing city to design her jewelry collections. Her background actually started as a buyer for a locally focused specialty store. And this is what kind of gave her the insight and encouragement to pivot those ideas from sketches into a full collection of sophisticated yet functional jewelry. This is the Taryn Thomas vision, jewelry that is functional, elegant, and timeless, just like the city it's made in. Welcome, Kylie.
Thank you. Pleasure.
And lastly, and of course, certainly not least by any means, we're so excited to have Rebecca Minkoff on this panel as well. A little bit of background on Rebecca. It was in her high school costume department where Rebecca fell in love for the first time with design. When she turned 18, she followed that passion and her talent for it to New York, where she developed her first capsule collection. And in 2005, her first handbag. And this is really the iconic morning after bag, AKA the MAB. And that was what put Rebecca Minkoff, the brand, on the map, and what the brand has evolved so much, but is still known for this incredibly iconic bag, which is all about being edgy, feminine, and highly identifiable. Soon after that, Rebecca launched her ready-to-wear collection and has set off on this brand that has now become a complete global lifestyle brand that's recognized not only for handbags, but apparel, footwear, jewelry, accessories, and so much more. On top of everything Rebecca does in the fashion world, she is also an author, a podcast host, advisor for the North, and of course, the founder of the Female Founder Collective. Welcome and thank you, Rebecca.
Hi, thanks. Great to be here, everybody.
Okay, so with all of those amazing introductions, just to give you all some background on kind of the powerhouses that we have on the panel today, I'm going to dive right into the questions so everyone can kind of start learning about all the amazing strategies and tactics that have made these women and their businesses so successful. So Lily, I'm going to start with you. As I mentioned before, you started your own brand. You worked at other brands, Tory Burch, Club Monaco, Banana Republic, to name a few. So you have experience with a lot of different things, everything from merchandising to visuals. I'd really love to understand and have our audience understand how that shapes how you approach retail and merchandising, and what advice you have for smaller businesses when it comes to crafting their presentations in their retail outlets at any time of year. Can you speak to this?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I feel like I got the best education working for these larger corporate companies. I was at J. Crew for 5 years, Tory Burch, as well as all these other places. And although my passion, my focus has always been design and creativity, while you're there, you are really get to meld with the team, and you're working with production, you're working with styling. I mean, I helped out with copywriting for a little bit too, and production and marketing, and you really become aware of how cross-functional everything is. So I would say it's really important, if even though your strength and what you're better suited doing is to get your hands wet. Sometimes it's a smaller company or a corporate company, but really kind of learn your ropes, because when or if you do start your own business, you end up doing a little bit of everything. So I was really fortunate to kind of feel very experienced by the time I went off on my own, having had those places, under my belt working for.
Great. Thank you, Lily. And Kylie, I'm actually going to pivot to you and ask about your incredible social media strategy. I know social media is something that a lot of brands are always thinking about, trying to figure out how to optimize, but you develop these amazing virtual presentations that have led to tens of thousands of followers for Taryn Thomas. So I know in many cases, it feels like you have to bombard your followers all the time with like, buy. And it's hard to sometimes find that balance, which you have done so well. So can you talk to us a little bit about how you decide what marketing channels to focus on when you are growing Taryn Thomas? And then as well as how do you think about kind of that frequency of touching base with your customers to truly build a community and engage?
Absolutely. So I originally started Taryn Thomas from like a small little idea. And as a visual person, I guess social media was the one channel that I really connected with, in particularly Instagram. Instagram was a channel that we could use that was essentially the most cost-effective channel when we initially started. So it was a way that we could connect with our community and our followers and give them a chance to really learn about our brand without having to put money into advertising and all these other outlets that we didn't really have access to based on the budget that we were working with. I would say that Instagram still has continued to be one of our main focuses. I feel like we're very community based, especially recently opening a store in New York City and having all of our pieces produced in New York City. So I think it's just a really great place for us to continue to tell that brand story and feel like really truly connected. So yeah.
And then are there other channels that you use beyond Instagram? Have you found that you're kind of thinking about a TikTok strategy as well? Or do you find you can kind of focus your efforts in one channel and that's productive?
I feel most authentically true in Instagram, but obviously as a growing small business, we do have to sort of get into all of those other channels. So we have started to try to make our way into TikTok, which has been a fun learning experience. And we do digital marketing and other things like that. So slowly but surely we're making our way. But yeah, we do I manage our social media personally, so I just feel like it's a really great space for me to like connect with our community and really just give an entire like lifestyle feel of what Taryn Thomas really represents.
And Rebecca, I'd love your perspective on this. I mean, you are such a pioneer in using social media as well to build your brand. I mean, I think I remember when I was at ShopUp, you were one of the first people who was doing the buy now, wear now of collections. And we're also used to, as a buyer, buying products 6 months in advance. And you had really kind of done this buy now, wear now collection with this big kind of like social media presence. And it really kind of changed the conversation in the industry and got many other brands thinking about, having product that they show to their customers that's actually available to buy at that moment. So I'd love to kind of get your perspective on how you think about using content to connect to your community in a way that resonates with your followers and brand.
So I think we love experimenting. We like trying new things. And especially as a small business, you can't experiment and try enough and see what resonates. We've done everything from see now, buy now to going back onto the fashion calendar. What works today for us is really partnering with micro and nano influencers who have really, truly engaged followings. And we sort of operate having 3 phases. There's awareness, conversion, and then getting that customer to keep coming back. And so that's a strategy we started implementing for fall of this year that we're seeing work really well with a lot of younger girls. And I think it's, for us as a brand, as I'm getting older, it's stringing that line between, the 18-year-old to the 40 plus. And how do you sort of target her specifically if she resonates with me as an older woman, or if she resonates with a younger woman, and it's sort of making sure that we're always having both sides of the content reflect both of those types of girl. And it's all the same girl at the end of the day. It's just where she's at in her life cycle. And we know that there's very different experiences that women have as they get older, have kids, get married, whatever they're going through. And so we're talking to both, which some people could say is confusing, but when we just spoke to one, it didn't really work. Then a lot of other women felt alienated. So we're constantly trying to grow the segment from both ends.
Awesome. I'd love to open this up a little to all of you guys I'm sure social media and just attracting customers and a following is one of, I'm sure, the biggest things on our audience's mind. So maybe, Lily, would love even your perspective on how you were able to do that, especially making that transition from a corporate world, being a designer and, at all these amazing corporate brands, then going out on your own and all of a sudden having to say, oh my gosh, I don't have this big corporate brand behind me. How am I, getting Lily on the map? Would love your perspective on that.
Well, when I first started about 10 years ago, Instagram wasn't even a thing. So while that was not good to be able to get out there really quickly, I didn't have that pressure like, oh, you have to grow your following super quick and just feel the need to get in there now. It was a lot more organic, a lot more dependent on wholesalers, of which I still partner with, like Neiman's and Saks and Bloomies, Nordstrom, and all those people. And at the beginning, they were really good in partnership, but also for advertising and getting your name out there. And then when Instagram grew, I like, Rebecca, what you said too, is that you're just trying things. And that is the best platform because your ROI is immediate. And when the pandemic happened and everyone was pivoting and just changing their marketing plans just to accommodate, a different mindset, we're like, let's go live, let's do this. And I hadn't really done that. And so I just went on, we did a live, we're like, let's do a happy hour because you know what, it's not a good day for everybody, and just start talking. And I think it kind of worked with the alignment of our brand, which is very joyful and maximal. And also, Rebecca, I liked how you said how you do have these different age brackets. We're one size, we're accessories, right? So we can fit, my daughter, my mother, myself, we can all wear headbands and jewelry and other pieces. So that is something that's constantly on there too. Like, do I show me? Do I show my daughter? Do I show other people, like, younger set, older set? So we try to diversify in the people that are influencers or in our models or things like that. But it's constantly changing. And just when you think you have it down and you have your ad spend, Facebook and Instagram change their algorithm. And then everything that you think you've been doing doesn't work. So it's just being open at knowing that whatever you're doing now is probably going to be different than what you're doing next season.
Thank you for that. Super helpful. So this question is, a little bit broader, and I think this is something that many of us all face in our careers every day. We all just wear a lot of hats, whether it's an entrepreneur, a designer, a mother, a marketer, you're head of social media, you're head of design, you're head of retail stores, especially, when you're running a small business, you have a lot of different things to do and juggle. So I would love to hear from each of you on how do you avoid kind of just becoming overwhelmed by multiple sales strategies, kind of being deployed simultaneously. How do you really kind of prioritize and think about what the focuses need to be when you have so many things on your plate? Kylie, I'll start with you.
Sure. I guess I could count our whole entire team on one hand. So we're extremely small. So as the founder of an extremely small business, I've touched and continue to touch pretty much every single part of it. I've been involved in every single aspect. And I love being involved in all those pieces. It's definitely an ongoing work in progress to figure out where my time is best spent, especially having e-commerce and a store now. But I think I'm really starting to learn that there's a lot of power in leaning on other people and giving up like some of the things that I still continue to hold on to and relying and trusting that other people can take on those responsibilities. And we've just kind of more recently started to hire like different agencies and hire outside of what I would normally take as all of my responsibilities. So I still love to obviously be involved in everything, but in order to grow, I do understand that it's so important to lean on experts and other people who have the skills that I might not have.
Thank you. And what would you say is kind of like your biggest tip or way to think about hiring? Is it really kind of filling in skill sets that you maybe don't have and, want to bring in experts, or is it really kind of adding to a core functional area that you're focused on? Like, how did you kind of think about those hires that you knew when you were ready to expand the team?
I guess we sort of hire in two different ways. One, we focused on hiring experts. So we've never had anyone managing our digital marketing. So we just recently hired two different agencies who are people that are very close to me and have run these agencies for a long time. And we've been having these conversations over the years, and I've just finally felt comfortable like we were ready to take that leap. So we have one agency that's looking after our paid advertising, and then another that is doing all of our digital marketing. So that kind of came from like a need of, I no longer can take our business to the level at the knowledge that I have. And I guess the other hiring that's more in-house hiring, we have one main full-time employee that I hired honestly based off of like her skill set, but also just her personality and the way in which she was going to fit into the small Taryn Thomas team. I feel like as someone who is fresher out of school and really eager to learn and get involved, that was kind of the person that I was looking for. Someone that I can kind of help find where they thrive, and that also is a little bit moldable and able to fit into what we also need.
Thank you for that. Rebecca, I'll hand it to you. Would love to kind of understand how you really cut through the noise and all of the kind of different priorities, and how you think about making sure the most important things get done while you're still focused on a lot of things.
So I think the business has different needs and phases, and Kylie highlighted that perfectly. When I first started, it wasn't about hiring someone with a certain college degree or certain experience. It was, they're hungry and they'll work hard and they'll do anything. It was just another person to shoulder the load. And as you grow and get more sophisticated, you have to turn into the phase where you're hiring people that are far better at what they do than you'll ever be. And it's sort of removing the ego that you know it all, and that you can do it all. You should have a basic, like as Lily said, an understanding of all the roles so that you don't get tricked or scammed. But as you grow, it's really important to hire experts. And I think that's where, depending on what you want to do within your company, you can be the best that you can be and focus on what you need to do because you trust that someone knows how to implement the marketing, the e-commerce, the finance. And so at the end of the day, I think remove the ego in the beginning, find the people that are willing to just help, get.
Uh-oh, I think did Rebecca freeze? Is that just me? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Lily, do you want to maybe jump in? Okay,
I could add something. Totally. So I was going to say, I think you froze for a minute.
Oh, you're back, Rebecca. Sorry. You were frozen for a sec. You're back.
Oh, okay. And then just to wrap it up, at the end of the day, trust your gut. I have hired experts that steered me wrong and it didn't feel right at the time and the outcome was not great. And so, even though they might have the PhD and claim to be the savior of your company, if it doesn't feel right, don't do it.
Yeah, I'll just add to that, that it's really important to find people when you are starting out that want to grow and want to be more than maybe what the position is. And that's something that I feel that you can really find out in the interview process too. They're like, what is your ultimate goal? And you want somebody to grow with the company, because when you do, that person will train the person below them too. And so it's important to like think very macro and understand if that person, let's say you start with one person in your sales team, and then you think that person could be like a director and could manage and could, focus and really work with a whole team. So it's good. At the end of the day, you want people to stay and have longevity and to have the ambition to get promoted and have people under them.
All great responses, and definitely hiring talent is always the make or break, right? I mean, it's what sets the company up for success and longevity. It's the single most important job, I think, of any leader, business owner, is identifying and getting the right talent in. So thank you for all those those awesome tips. Actually, Lily, I'm going to transition a little bit into stores. And really, there's been a lot of talk lately, and especially post-pandemic, about how there's so much interest in being back in stores, while e-commerce always continues to be amazing growth and such a great place to really be able to tell your brand story from a creative perspective. I think we all are definitely reading and hearing about just, the customer being excited to step into a physical store again. So, on that note, Lily, I think, you've mentioned before or said before that one of your best advertising tools has been opening up your own branded stores, and that you've always felt that it's a place where someone can see the brand and all of its categories and really your true expression in one place. So can you kind of talk to us a little bit about how you capitalize on that in-store experience throughout the year? And then specifically, if there's anything that you do at key time periods, whether it's the holidays, Mother's Day, Valentine's Day, that really you have found to have an impact?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing is it's so rewarding to see all the different categories under one roof in the same area because, I work with a jewelry buyer and a handbag buyer and a headband buyer and a hair and a cold weather and sunglasses. So sometimes within a store, we're kind of dispersed in different places. And to be able to have the control to have someone like walk into the world of Lily Sadugi and put it together how it's supposed to be, how you want to wear your crystal glasses with your headband and this. I mean, I'm all about a matching moment. So it's very rewarding to be able to see it all together. And I think that we've also had a shift just in our buying process too, right? Just with the pandemic, we maybe got more comfortable buying online or going direct to that brand and going direct to their website. And it's really more omni. So even if they go into the store and they experience it, they might want to just digest it and think about it. They might still buy online. So it's really about this omni experience that they can check it out. They can discover the brand. We're adding like QR codes to the outside of the store because you walk by and you want to just catch people at all times. And I mean, the interesting thing is I actually studied advertising, and I feel like I use that so much too, because you can never really quantify it, right? You can't quantify your sales in your store. They might have heard about you online. They might have seen you in a department store, just hitting them from all different directions. And I will say, I think that there is a move towards more brick and mortar because, as I mentioned earlier about the algorithm changing and it just becoming more expensive to acquire a customer. It is more expensive than it was last year. I know, Kylie, you're starting to work with like an agency to do ads, and we've had a budget. We had like we still have an amazing ROI with that, but it's changed and it's become harder. So like what Rebecca's saying too is focusing on the influencers, maybe that's the way to go too. So it's just changing where we can't just rely on the ad spend, but we're also mixing it with store experiences because you can gain so many customers. Like, I hope all of you can come to our event on Bleecker Street. I mean, sometimes we'll have upwards of 300 people walking through the store. And so thinking of ways to acquire all those new customers is just so valuable to a business.
Lily, we're neighbors now, so we'll definitely have to visit each other in person.
I know. When you started the conversation, where is everybody? I will be in New York in a few hours. So
amazing.
So I'll see you. So I'm either Dallas or New York.
Absolutely. And I can agree with, I never imagined that I would have the opportunity to have a physical brick and mortar store. And I can't say enough how much it's really changed our business. Like, it's been such an incredible opportunity to like meet people who have never really been able to visit the brand in person and again shop this true Taryn Thomas experience. And I guess this is our first store, so we opened during COVID. I didn't know what to expect, and it's just been one of the most amazing things that we could have added to our mix.
Yeah, I think even from my end as a retailer, it's so interesting because, we carry probably about 200 brands at Intermix, 300 online. And a lot of times as our brands open their own stores, and sometimes they open up right next to us or across the street, kind of right away, you're like, oh my God, this brand's opening and we have such a big business with them in our store. And every single time what we have actually found is that both of our businesses benefit, because it's simply just one, more awareness for the brand. And we've also just been able to kind of share customers, because at the end of the day, I'm a multi-brand retailer. I'm never going to have the full presentation. I'm always going to have an edit of any of the brands that I carry. And many times she'll come in and she say, oh my gosh, I love this headband, but I was wondering if you had the Lily sunglasses. And we say like, oh, we don't, but I know she has a store down the street and she has got everything there. So I think there's also really nice synergy in a way to kind of say, you can grow your wholesale business and your wholesale partners, and you can also open stores, and it's actually adding to your pie. You're not just trading the customer from saying, oh, now she's not going to shop here and she's going to shop here. It's really just, again, being able to build the brand and its awareness with your customer base. And we see that all the time. So
yeah,
actually,
and then likewise, we want to say, oh, that's a great, emerald earring. Go get a dress at Intermix.
Yes, we love that. That's always, that's the ecosystem. And actually continuing this conversation really about advertising and marketing, would love to hear from this group on how you kind of think about and create your holiday marketing strategy, and what are the KPIs that you're focused on to ensure success? Rebecca,
Who
you want
wants
to
to
take
go?
it?
For us, the holidays, the fourth quarter is our biggest time of year. So there is a lot of thought and effort into the balance of pushing holiday, gift guide, and making sure it gets there on time, but also it's, a lot of brands are on sale as well and trying to give their customers incentives. And so it's that fine balance that is different for every brand, where you are pushing as much full price as possible, but knowing that people sometimes want deals. So how do you surprise and delight them in ways that isn't just, blasting it very obviously? And so it definitely takes a balance and a lot of thought and, a lot of pressure, because again, for us, this is our Super Bowl right now. And so, the reason why we focused on this micro influencer strategy starting in fall was to get as much solid messaging out there that by the time it is the holidays, she's heard about it, seen it from multiple different touch points. We've had a ton of events, whether it was Fashion Week or the event we did in Basel last week, just to get as much word out there before, we're top of mind as soon as she's going to buy all these holiday gifts. So that's not as specific as you'd probably like me to be, but that's kind of the overview.
Okay, that's really helpful. Kylie, did you have anything to add?
I guess we're a little bit different, and we only really mark down once a year, and that's during Black Friday. So that's like your one opportunity. And I would say 90% of our pieces are made to order. So it's a little bit different of a strategy. And as I mentioned earlier, we just hired on 2 agencies to sort of help us build our strategy in a more strategic way, because to be completely honest, I'm really not the most analytical person. And a lot of the things that we decide and do are based on my gut. And I think that's obviously very important, but I do understand that there's definitely importance in metrics and numbers. And obviously you can test things like during COVID, when we launched the store, we decided to add a vintage element to the store. So we have vintage glassware, vintage jewelry, and vintage clothing. And we found that people got so excited when things came in that we would post all of our new vintage every week on Instagram, just on our stories, not as a post, and they would sell immediately. So, I mean, although we're not like following, or I'm not personally as good as following like metrics and analytics, like we are paying attention to what our customers like and pay attention to on a smaller scale. And now we're ready to sort of really pick that up and trust the experts to sort of help us take us to the next level.
Mm-hmm. I'll just add to that, for us, we have a lot of new deliveries and surprise and delights all the time. And we'll have some things that are exclusive and some things that you feel like you need to get now. It's really limited. And we have, for instance, some headbands that we use with Swarovski crystals, where they're 3 times the cost of our normal headbands, but they know that it's so limited, and they in the past have sold out in the past 30 minutes. So it's really like keeping like you said, a reason to be online, whether it's looking at your vintage stuff or what's the next drop that's going to happen, that's like really exciting and keeping them engaged. And so while it is a lot of work in designing a constant flow of products, sometimes in marketing, you decide to like, okay, let's hold these few items and give them a spotlight so that there's something fun coming this week, and then, release everything else the next week. So we're constantly pivoting and changing as well. But that seems to be good for us, especially during this holiday time, because you like Rebecca said, you want to keep people top of mind as well. To like, oh yeah, Lily just did this. She did this. I wonder if she's doing like a Christmas headband, or I wonder if she's doing something for like Valentine's Day. And chances are we are.
And is that kind of part of your product strategy, Lily? Are you really focused on those like kind of key holiday periods? Obviously, you're an accessories brand, et cetera, but do you really find that having really curated specific products for whether, like you said, it's holidays, it's Valentine's, it's Mother's Day, that's a real driver of full price for you?
It's definitely a driver of full price. I would say that our main core collections are the biggest, revenue builder, because like next week or on the 8th, I'm dropping my resort collection, which has about 60 pieces in all categories. So that's just a wide assortment. But, maybe I had a drop yesterday of like 5 headbands that were Swarovski or something like that. So it's about the big and the small. And I think it's about the mix, because we do have a lot of wholesale, having some special items that are maybe just on our site that keep people's interest peaked, as they might be an Intermix buyer. They like, if they have it at Intermix, I'm going to buy it there. They have it at Nordstrom, I'm going to buy it there. But and another thing we just introduced is a loyalty program too. So I think that's something too to keep people engaged.
I'd love to hear a little bit more about that. Is the loyalty is such an important thing, right? And like, I know that, again, as a retailer, we think about it all the time too, and how you create loyalty that's not tied to a discount, again, is something that is important to us, and important to most businesses, right? Because you just don't, it becomes very difficult to sustain the business if it's always just because she's coming in because of a discount. So how did you kind of think about your loyalty program? Or Rebecca, I don't know if you guys have one, or just kind of like keeping that loyalty and not just always kind of having to dangle that discount to get the repeat customer, especially online, where it's less of that in-store emotional experience.
We have had many iterations of a loyalty program. I think everyone wishes they could automate it a little bit more. But sadly, it does take a human being thinking, feeling, and ideating. We're actually having a call today with a new loyalty program that also takes into account Web3 tokens, which we don't know the future of Web3, as everything is collapsing in crypto around us. But we do feel that if someone, earns a token from attending a Lily event or a Taryn event on Bleecker, what does that give them access to? A special one-on-one with Lily, or, like you could ideate these things that, the more you play, the more you get. And that could take place virtually, in person. So we'll share more as soon as I have my 3:00 call.
Yeah, and then get back to us, because I'd like to know about this.
So I think, when looking at this panel, one of the things that really stands out to me is that you each have built such a strong brand DNA. Your products, your aesthetic, your marketing, it's very much your brand. And again, as a retailer, that's something that's, that we look for when we look at brands, is that it just has to be so unique and true to that brand that we would be able to know that, oh, that's a Rebecca bag, that's a Taryn Thomas necklace, or that's a Lily headband. And that's really what kind of creates that interest. So because everything really does start with that product, with that brand DNA, I'd kind of, Kylie, I'll start with you. I would love to kind of go around the room and, talk to us about how you really built that DNA, and then how you stay true to that DNA in a constant sea of never ending changing trends and preferences, and, chunkies in and streamlines in. And like, how do you kind of find that balance of like, this is my DNA, but you're still aware and evolving with, customer preferences and trend?
Absolutely. We don't really follow the fashion calendar, and we're not super trend focused. I would say most of our pieces are timeless and classic. So I think that kind of lends to our identity. The first collection we ever created still exists within our collections. So as we add new collections to the mix, they kind of stay as consistent classic collections. And I think that that's something, again, they're not trend forward. So the checkered moment, which we have a checkered ring, which I'm wearing, is like one of our most popular pieces that everyone knows us for. And we designed that like 6.5 years ago, before checkered was even a thing. And it just happened to be that trend fell into place. And then was a moment for us to then take advantage of this trend that was happening, but we didn't create it to fall into a trend. And I guess a lot of our brand identity is really my voice and perspective. So I think that's one way in which we're really able to stay like the most consistent and true. Whether we're posting on social media, like I post about the business all the time, but I also post a lot of personal. I think it's like a great way for people to connect with me. I am the brand voice. I am the brand. Taryn Thomas is my middle name and my brother's middle name. So that's why I've listed my name this way, to be a little bit more obvious. But I guess it really is just because I am the brand. I represent the brand, and I think that's how we're kind of able to stay true to the identity.
If I could add one thing to that, we started out with a very clear point of view, and this is before direct to consumer. And there's a slippery slope when you want to sell to all these stores that, they need you to be something to them.
Right.
We went through this whole brand trajectory of Nordstrom saying we need you to provide us with core product, and Bloomingdale's and Neiman's, they all wanted something different. And for a very, very long time, again, before direct to consumer, the buyers at these stores were playing designer. And it was the threat of, if you don't do this, I'll just go get it from someone else. And if I could say, hold strong, don't do that. Don't give in because the buyer says they want Nerd Alert on a computer tote, which did happen to us like 10 years ago. I think it took COVID where all of our wholesalers went away and we just had our e-com that we said, we're first from now on, and we will work with a store and we will do exclusives, but they're going to be in our brand appropriate aesthetic. And it's never going to be that the buyer says, I need it in blah, and I'll go to someone else. You say, great, go to someone else. And it's hard in the beginning because you want to grow. And you don't want to say no to those dollars, but it'll hurt you in the end. So stay true to who you are, stay true to your brand, despite all the invitations to become a yes designer to a lot of different companies.
I really, really, really love that, Rebecca. And again, as sitting as someone on the side of who has probably been one of the people who says, we need this in pink and we need this to be this bag, but smaller. And with it's my advice too, when I end of emerging brands and new brands as well, is that the most compelling thing is when a brand has their own POV and it's their POV, and they don't come in saying, oh, well, we're trying to be the next so-and-so. And I'm like, well, I don't need you to be so-and-so because I already have so-and-so. So I think like that's what's so compelling when a brand is like, here's who we are and here's what we do. And you're so right. I know it's tough to find that balance between, yes, you want to grow, especially in those early stages. You want to make your retail partners happy and provide them with what they want. But the minute you start kind of letting those decisions go outside of your four walls, and Kylie, you talked a lot about, being the brand and just knowing intrinsically who your brand is. I think that's when I've seen these brands that start to go like this, and then they suddenly kind of just start to go like this because they lose what made them so good in the beginning, which was they were themselves. And they did themselves better than anyone could ever tell them how to. So I think that that really resonated with me as well. And Lily, I'd love to hear your thoughts because obviously you created something where there wasn't even a trend before. And
yeah, I mean, I have so many memories of, and I like how you say of this moment, like stay true to your aesthetic. And for me, I love big, maximal, joyful, happy pieces. I will always huge chandelier earrings and crystal balls, all these kind of things. And there's been, and especially when I was at J. Crew, like it was wearing 10 necklaces at once. It was wearing 8 bangles. It was that whole thing, and it was such a success because it matched what I wanted to do and what was happening. And when I started my line, it became more minimal in costume jewelry, and I stuck to my guns because like that is just not me. I'm not going to do those little dainty pieces, and because I do the big stuff, while that might not be the mass market share of it, I am the one that does that. So when there is, and if you think about these department stores and they're like, oh, we have someone that we've got the gold hoops from somebody else. We've got the little crystal studs from somebody. We have the small gold pieces from somebody. Lily, we come to you for color and big scale. So when you're in that bucket that you want to be in and you're known for that, you do just, the next step is you are more identifiable in that. Also, you do have to do some like little pieces to have the core, like what Rebecca's saying. Like we have core styles. I have like a faux black leather headband that we've had since the very beginning. Some of my crystal lily earrings since 2016. So I'm not saying like, oh, you have to stand true and just do what you do. It's a mix. It's a little bit of a mix, just to be completely realistic. But I think that your focus should remain at the same hand of what you do. And then you can pepper in these other little pieces that complement. Like get them into the store for that fabulous piece, but they might walk home with just a little hoop, but they walked into the store for that like big crazy piece.
Really great discussion. Thank you, ladies. I'm gonna round out kind of this series of questions and want to really leave our audience with something very impactful that they can and think about. And I'm going to have this question go out to everyone, but really, what is the one thing that every founder should be thinking about right now so that they're prepared for next year's holiday season? Rebecca, I'll start with you.
I think it's too early to think about next year's holiday season, to be honest. I think you should be thinking about spring, summer campaigns, how you're going to have as much in-person touch points as possible. And when you have the January 1 hindsight, then begin to think about next year, because I think it's going to change. There's so much in flux right now with the economy and the world that it would be really hard to predict what's happening next fourth quarter.
Yeah, I'll add to that. Right now, I mean, I'm designing for next year.
Yeah.
So I am thinking, just as far as design, thinking about the success of what we've had this year in Q4 and kind of expanding on that. But it's impossible. I think as far as marketing, you can wait and you should wait a little bit. Like I'm focused. I mean, everybody's like more video, more TikTok, more, reels, and, less static pictures. I think that's kind of what's happening now. So it is more of I don't think we can, like Rebecca says, know what we're doing in a year from now for marketing. Design's another story. So I don't know exactly what I'm doing in, like, I would say 2 months from now.
So and I especially think when the environment is so uncertain, I think that it's fair to be a little bit probably reactionary to see where things are going. But actually there was a question that came in that I'd be happy to pose to the group. And we talked about it a little bit earlier on, but how do you guys think about emerging marketing technologies? There's, especially with a younger audience, and she's not just on Instagram. How are you even thinking about, or are there people on your team, maybe you're not the experts, who are helping you think about like the really new platforms, like whether it's a Be Real or something like that? How do you kind of think about those, or do they not really enter the conversation at this point?
I downloaded Be Real and I did it for about 2 weeks. I saw zero ROI other than a big waste of time, and I'm sure I'll be wrong. But I was like, you know what? It is an aspiration. Some of this is aspirational. You want to see the designer in somewhere or doing something. And yes, there's a reality to it, but you don't want to see me like at 6 a.m. with bags and my hair all, like that doesn't make me want to buy a bag. And so I didn't feel like for us, it was a platform that made sense. We might revisit it. We're still experimenting with TikTok. We've tried everything. We haven't figured out what works for us. But yeah, I think Be Real is great for consumers, but I don't know for brands if I've seen a brand do it well yet.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll just add, we recently started to do a lot more with Pinterest, and that's been really good for us too, and even an ad spend on Pinterest, as well as just because we have so many collectible items, you know, a stack of headbands. It's just like, if you have a really pretty image, it translates well. But the challenge is whatever assets you have maybe chosen for Instagram is not right for TikTok, is not right for, you know, Pinterest and everything. So you just have to grow your team, or you work a lot more to kind of segregate all those images to the right allotment.
Kylie, did you have anything to add?
We have not really put any focus into we're still on the TikTok train trying to get involved in that. So no.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think for us too at Intermix, we kind of think about each platform as like, what's our end goal, right? Like we feel like on Instagram, we want to convert, like that our goal is conversion there. We want to attract followers. So and to your point, Lily, we think about the content very differently. Like we know what works on Instagram, like a pretty image of a Manolo works every time. Like it just, the engagement is through the roof. Doesn't matter. In the height of COVID, our number one selling image was actually a Manolo hot pink fuchsia pump, right? Like where was she wearing it? Where was she going out? But that it's just the emotionalness of the image. So I think like, and then, you know, kind of, we're still figuring out TikTok and kind of what's the point? Is this just to be like, hey, we're Intermix, and kind of just be like, that's it. We're not trying to sell you anything, but here we are. We're fun. We're, you know, we're a fun place to shop, and we're all about trend and getting dressed up. And, you know, so I think it's also just thinking about the platforms, and it's like, what do you want them to do for you? And then having like a brand persona around that. And Pinterest for us, Lily, we've again found that it's a great place where she's putting together kind of outfit mood boards, or if she's planning her wedding, she's like kind of saving down all these like dresses that she's thinking of, or like bridesmaid stuff. And so Pinterest has actually been a really great space for us, even though you wouldn't really traditionally think about it for a retailer, but it really just works for who we are, because we're, you know, kind of a source of inspiration and things that she's coveting or planning for these big moments or getaways or occasions in her life.
Yeah, I think it's omni. It's getting them at the store, getting them physically, getting them at wholesalers, getting them on Instagram, on TikTok, and just playing around to see what works for your engagement.
Well, thank you guys for the amazing conversation today. I hope this was really helpful to our audience as they kind of start to think about their strategies, building their brands, being a true entrepreneur and wearing 70 different hats at once. So thank you guys for all of your input, your candor, and just your honesty as we navigate this never-ending fun world called fashion and retail. It's never a dull moment. And just before we wrap up, I want to thank our audience for joining our panel. It was really nice to be able to talk about this with such incredible women and business women as well. So one final reminder, just don't forget to RSVP for the holiday sip and shop that will be hosted by Brookfield Properties at the Bleecker Street Collection on December 8th. Like Avery said, it's going to be an awesome way to support some female founded brands in the amazing West Village. So it'll be a great place to hang out, meet some brands, as well as network with some other incredible women in New York City. Thank you, everyone.
Thank
you. See you.